long battle with cancer. He had joined the service in September 1998 and served at Redbridge, Winchester, Havant and Emsworth. He will be greatly missed by his friends and colleagues. I attended his funeral, a very moving funeral, and I'm sure you join me in offering condolences to his family and friends. Also members, Councillor Adrian Evans. Certainly David Simpson will remember Adrian. I don't know, probably most of you here wouldn't have been on the authority. Well, you may have remembered him, yes. Sadly, he had been ill for quite some time. He left the County Council in 2013, I think. Or was it before then? I can't remember now. But anyway, Adrian had been ill for a number of years, and he passed away in January. I attended his funeral down in Lymington on behalf of the authority and indeed the County Council, and it was, the church there in Lymington was absolutely packed, so he was well respected in Lymington. Also this morning, I've had another notice of a deceased. Is with regret I have to announce the death of one of our volunteers, Den Osman, following a stroke earlier this week. Den started with the fire service as a volunteer in August 2013. He coordinated volunteers in the Basingstoke group. He undertook a variety of activities, presentations, community group talks, home safety visits, open days, and was a very proactive member of the team. He was a larger-than-life character and will be sorely missed by the volunteer team. We obviously send our condolences to the volunteers and obviously also to the family. He will clearly be missed. So, those are all the obituary notices for. It's a very sad time. Moving on with the announcements, we had a Hampshire firefighter deployed to combat the deadly diphtheria outbreak, and I'd like to say thanks to Watch Manager Simon Forster of the Urban Search and Rescue Team. He was deployed to Bangladesh on the 28th of December to form part of the UK's emergency medical team to help medical efforts to combat the diphtheria outbreak. I think we'll see if we can get Simon to come along at a future meeting to... I'm being told he's going to come to our next meeting to tell us what happened in Bangladesh. Sorry. Sorry, I thought you were telling me something else. HMIC FRS update. It has been announced that Hampshire and the Isle of Wight inspection would take place within Tranche 1, which is anticipated to start in June. We await confirmation of the dates, and I will let you know as soon as they are known. Carbon management plan. The authority approved a five-year carbon management programme in 2012, aiming to create energy efficiencies and to invest in solar panels across the estate. Significant changes have taken place since 2012, some of which include the use of our estate with increased site occupancy with our partners. I'm pleased to report to members of the authority that there has been successful delivery of savings, and I anticipate return on investment is progressing to plan. The future management of the authority's carbon footprint will be through the carbon management plan. Next item is just to remind you that our next meeting on the 22nd of March will be at the County Council's... 22nd. Sorry? 22nd. Did I say 26? I beg your pardon. It's the 22nd. It's in the Wellington room at 1400 hours. And the venues for subsequent meetings will be advised to you in due course. exercise dates, Prince Philip Barracks. Members to note the dates, 20th, 21st and 26th of March. These are taking place at the barracks. If any of you would like to attend and observe an exercise, I have been up there last year. It was very interesting, so please go along if you can. Just to say again, 20th, 21st and 26th of March, these exercises taking place in the morning, so please let Becky know if you're able to go along on one of those days. Next item is the opening of Basingstoke Station, which is Thursday this week. Excuse me. Right, you're all invited to attend if you can. I gather that some of you are not aware of the timetable. So I have here that car park marshals will be in the car park at 1:45. 1 o'clock in the afternoon, marketplace opens. 1:20, Lord Lieutenant due to arrive. 1:45, guests to be seated. So if you're able to come, and you're all very welcome, I would say that you certainly need to be there by around 1 o'clock. Okay. Sorry?
Yes.
This is the new Basingstoke Fire Station. Have we got the postcode for that? So people... Can you just repeat that, David?
RG226PH.
RG226PH.
West Ham Close.
Right, okay. So that will give you the directions to get there. Right, so moving on. Sorry this is taking so long. There's a lot to tell you about. Combination order. The amendments to the combination order were laid before Parliament on the 1st of December last year without challenge. The updated combination order is now a formal piece of legislation. Right, so... Sorry? Yes. So I did say that I had something to comment on with regard to the PCC. Michael Lane, who I met with last week. I asked him to send me a letter which came yesterday. This has gone to the Isle of Wight as well, and I've got an update on my laptop which came in this morning. Before I read that to you, I'll invite the Chief Officer to just say a few words.
Thank you, Chairman. Members, just to perhaps refresh our memories, you may recall the Policing and Crime Act 2017 came into being last year, and it enabled a number of things, but two most importantly to ourselves as a fire and rescue service and a fire authority. One was the duty to collaborate with Blue Light Services, which was clearly described in the Act, which, as you know, and we report on frequently, we're getting on with. The other one enabled the Police and Crime Commissioner to put forward a case to become the fire authority if they were so wished, and as much as there was a case on the grounds of efficiency, effectiveness and safety. So those are the kind of contents of the Act which allowed that to happen. Now, as you can imagine, over the last more than a year or so, we've been working closely with not only the constabulary but the officers of Police and Crime Commissioner to understand, one, what the facts are of the matter, and two, what the intention of the PCC is in moving that forward. So that brings you up to date with where we've been in terms of legislation and the work we've been doing with the two offices. As officers, we will offer the facts and the matter, and there's been also a company brought in to help act as a third party in gathering those facts. And we've now reached a point where we considered those facts last week in a meeting, and the Chairman has a letter of update from that meeting.
Thank you. That was KPMG who spoke with myself, and couldn't actually get through to the Vice Chairman, but I think they spoke to you, Luke, and spoke to you, Sharon. And Roger Price, yes. So just to tell you quickly, because it will be referred to in the letter that I'm just going to read to you. The PCC was considering 4 options. Option 1 is no change. Option 2, for the PCC to be represented formally on this authority. He has hitherto, and still is, a guest here, and he's invited to come, but the formality of the Act was that he would come here as a voting member. That's option 2. Option 3, for the PCC to become the fire authority. He assumes responsibility if he opts for option 3. And option 4, a single employer, effectively amalgamation of the police and fire. So those are the options. So we had the meeting last week, and I asked for the PCC to give me a summary of his decision, and this is the letter that was sent to me. Actually, it's sent to me as chairman of the Fire Authority at Hampshire County Council in Winchester. But anyway, as agreed at the Police Fire Governance Board on Thursday, 8th of February, this letter sets out the key points covered in the meeting and my thinking on the way forward. Over the last 6 months, I've taken the opportunity to review options presented to me by the Policing and Crime Act 2017 for governance of fire service within my area. I am grateful for your support in reviewing these options in a collaborative and cooperative manner with the shared focus on achieving the best outcome for the people of Hampshire, the Isle of Wight, Portsmouth and Southampton. I am proud that we are often evidenced as the best in class when it comes to the improved effectiveness and efficiency we have achieved through collaboration. However, we now need to challenge ourselves to pursue those opportunities that have been identified for further collaboration but require greater effort to achieve. It is clear that we all have a common purpose in keeping our communities safer, are in agreement that partnership matters and is key to our ongoing and future success. I'm grateful to colleagues who expressed their confidence in the Fire Authority's work and their advocacy of option 2 and their invitation for me to join both authorities. I did invite him to join, as indeed did the Isle of Wight. While some benefits of a change in governance, option 3, are also identified, I believe that if our teams continue to work together, many of these could be brought forward and delivered within the existing partnership and cooperative arrangements. I heard powerfully stated in the meeting the potential risks from disrupting some plans that are already in progress. I acknowledge the value from landing work in progress. As stated in the meeting, my proposals are that we continue for the time being with the status quo, option 1, no change. I will maintain a watching brief whilst continuing to engage and support the fire authorities in the work they are doing. Over the coming months, there are a number of things I will continue to look for. Successful coming together of the fire authorities, which I understand we will hear good progress reports in March. This is us and the Isle of Wight. The new inspection regime with HMIC FRS and the confirmation of ongoing excellent performance of our fire services. The bringing together of further significant savings through the existing collaboration which delivered so well in the past. I would like to thank you again for your contributions to the gathering of the evidence that has led to my decision and for your continued support for working together in a more collaborative way to keep our communities safer. Right, so that was what came to me yesterday evening. Now, I'll just, if you excuse me just a moment, just see what's come to me this morning. Right, so this, I did actually say to Michael Lane, can you just send one page? So we've got nearly 2 pages there, and we've got probably 2 pages here. So he says to me, I thought it'd be worthwhile trying to capture the key elements of the options as discussed. Option 1, no change. This we agreed was better reflected as continuing to work together in partnership, which has proved to be not only successful, but has led the way as an effective model for collaboration built on strong relationships across all the partner organisations. Option 2, for Michael, this was actually written by Steve Payne, the Chief Executive. So option 2, for Michael to join the fire authorities as a voting member, which was facilitated by the change in combination order on 21st of December and continues to be an opportunity for both our authorities, would actively support should Michael reconsider the options available. So he will reconsider that. Option 3, for Michael to become the fire authority, both distracting and expensive when many of the opportunities for saving should be achieved through the through the continuing work of all organisations through collaboration. Option 4, creating a single employer model, bringing together police and fire services, requires a number of steps forward together with this option before this option can be considered. The triggers, they're saying, for the project board to reconvene, decisions for joining the fire authority, this will be in, oh no, this was April last year. They're right there, that should be 2018, shouldn't it? Outcomes of the inspection.
So that's the Isle of Wight decision?
Yeah, this is...
Yeah, that's the inspection.
That's the inspection. I'm sorry, members, I'm just reading this for the first time. So the triggers, decisions for joining the fire authority, outcomes of the inspection, and collaboration solutions and savings, operational benefits to be delivered. Right. This isn't something for us to discuss today. That just brings you up to date with where we are at the moment. And I think what the PCC is telling us is that he's taking no action at the moment. He's going to be reviewing what we're doing and then may well reconsider things at some future date.
May I just ask a question here? I know you have debate.
Yeah.
Is the word, the expression was for the time being, was how what he said. For the time being. I think we would all like to hear through you when you contact him again how long he plans the expression for the time being to be.
I take what you say entirely. There are 1 or 2 things in this letter that I don't want to comment on it at the moment, but...
No, I'm just asking you to get that information from him.
Okay. Yes, thank you for that. Right. I think that should conclude my announcements. Sorry about that. We now move, sorry it was so long, we now move to item 6, member development and comments. Has anybody got anything they wish to comment on? You spoke earlier, Ridin. Do you want to say anything else?
Do you want to reiterate what I said earlier?
You can do if you'd like to.
In the meeting. I visited training evening at Tadley Fire Station, thanks to Andy.
Oh, sorry.
And also, I'd like to thank John Amos and Sally Gould for their kindness and their information. It did transpire from conversations with them that we may be missing a trick, that we don't seem to thank the employers of these retained firefighters, which I think would provide good dividends for us. They allow it to happen. And also, one of them worked in Sainsbury's, and it seems that in the very, very small print in Sainsbury's contract, they are allowed to do it, but it is very, very small print. It would be, I think, helpful to us if we had some sort of campaign amongst the supermarkets with some posters and things saying we support the fire service. Might help to get more retained firefighters in. My next door neighbour is a partner in Waitrose, and she said they'd be absolutely delighted to put up as many posters as we wanted. I just think that would help you and us.
I think that's a point well made, Ridian. I'll invite Stu Adamson to say a few words.
Thank you, and thanks for those thoughts and comments. There is a piece of work which I've launched to look at some improvements around the retained system, and absolutely I'll take some of those comments around thanking employers into that work stream. Councillor Simpson and I met recently, and we're going to progress some of those individual work streams and report back to the authority through Councillor Simpson. There is a national campaign which has been supported and produced by our own marketing and communications team in-house, which will be quite a good launch for further engagement with employers and further engagement with community members to try and get more employees. But I'll keep the authority updated as we progress some of those improvements around the retained duty system. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I've been to 3 SMVs, one at Hightown, one at Redbridge, and also one at Romsey. It's very interesting seeing the differences between whole-time stations and retained stations. There's quite a few more coming up in Southampton, which I will be attending. I've also been invited to spend the day at Redbridge Fire Station next month, so which will be very interesting.
I just thought I would report very quickly on the SMV that I attended in Odium, which was when we actually initially heard about the death of Mick Paul. However, the important thing that came out of the actual meeting, which we have reported to the following CMT on the 15th of January, so the SMV was on the 10th of January, was the fact that there was some concern about the retention of people who were interested in joining the fire service. Now it's been reported. I just want to make sure that at some point we will get a report back from whichever officer it's going to be about how the fire service will ensure that interested younger people who are coming to us who might want to join will in fact be kept involved and maintain their interest to prevent them from just filtering away.
Yes, thank you. Your visit to Odium coincided with Hartley Whitney retained firefighters presenting to the People Committee where I was. And it was, well, quite a hard-hitting presentation, and a lot of what was said there was duly noted. So, Stu, do you want to add something?
Thank you, Chairman. As I mentioned about the piece of work, I'll make sure that I bring back a report to the authority. And we'll be looking, I've met with the watch manager at Hartley Whitney recently to take on board some of those comments and scope out this piece of work, which will look at retention, recruitment, training, and we'll also look at some of the issues around employers and how we attract people.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right. The Vice Chair will just speak about our visit to Otterbourne.
Yes, just to inform members really that the chairman, myself and Becky visited the Otterbourne, which is the headquarters of SCAS in Hampshire. Very worthwhile doing, very interesting. But actually, considering how much we work in cooperation with SCAS, with our co-responder role and everything, it was something that I felt was needed to be done, and we need to develop these closer relationships. Thank you.
Just adding to that, we had an excellent presentation from Mark Ainsworth, and it would be really good if we could have something like that here for us. So that's something we've already fed into the system. But in that presentation, they came up on the screen, oh, this is what we're doing for road safety. And I found that really interesting. And I was switched from being a member of the fire authority to being a county councillor immediately, because I said to Lena Samuels, well, I'm one of the county councillors, chairman of road safety, and I know that the county council, which has statutory responsibility for road safety, will be delighted if you were able to send a representative to the 3 meetings that we have across the whole county on a regular basis. And she said, well, yes, I'm sure we'd like to do that. So I fed that into the system, and Mark Samways, who is responsible for road safety at Winchester, was delighted. So that will, I hope, happen for the future road safety meetings. So we have scored a hit there from a blue light collaboration perspective, because, as I said, the County Council has the responsibility. Hopefully we will be getting all the main blue light services with a responsibility for road safety together. When I had a meeting, the Southern meeting last week, and this was mentioned, the police were absolutely thrilled. They were saying, well, this is what we've been trying to do for ages. So we'll just see how that works out. But it's, that was a step forward. Right. So anybody got anything else that they wish to add? Okay, right. Now we come to the main body of the meeting. Item 7. Please turn to page 11 in the papers that you have. Page 11. And I'll ask Rob Carr if he has any updates. Well, he has an update. You have an addendum, and Rob is going to speak to the addendum. Before he does that, can I just clarify with you, please, members, that we have amended recommendations in the addendum. Can I have your agreement, please, that we will take these recommendations in the addendum as the substantive recommendations for this paper, as against what is in your agenda? You're content with that?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So, Rob, over to you, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Happy to take any detailed questions on the report afterwards, but as the Chairman has said, if I can refer you to the addendum, I'll just talk you through that and then pick up any issues afterwards. So in terms of the first section, changes in the budget, we continue our tradition and may it continue for much longer, that we start off the year with a significant deficit, so nearly £2.5 million. We had forecast within the medium-term financial plan. And then we've had a series of favourable issues which have affected that position. So we've made certain provisions within the budget for inflation and growth. Part of that was around a potential increase in the firefighters' pension costs, which we've been able to remove. Those haven't come to fruition for 18-19, so that's a saving of 640,000. We've got an increase in council tax base. You'll recall we started to build in around 0.5% increase in the council tax base into the medium-term financial plan. That has come out much higher than that this year, so that's again a recurring increase in our income as a result of the council tax base increase of 342,000. You'll recall that the government have allowed all authorities to go to an extra 1% on the council tax. Something blowing up, yep. It was the excitement around the budget report, I suspect. Sorry, you'll recall that the government have allowed an extra 1% flexibility on the council tax before a referendum is required, and this report recommends to you that we take up that flexibility. We've got increase in the business rates, so you'll recall we retain an element of the business rates that's collected across the county, and that's an increase of 215,000 next year above the assumptions that we made in the plan. And then we've got much higher Section 31 grant from the government in respect of business rates that we've lost as a result of the things that they've given to small businesses, etc. So taking all of those things into account, effectively we've managed to bring that deficit down by over 2.2 million, and you'll recall that within the medium-term financial plan we said that we would balance the budget by a reduction within the revenue contributions to capital.
So sound effects about
Yeah.
with attention.
We're just trying to make it difficult for you, Rob.
Yeah. So it's not complicated. It's not complicated enough, clearly. So in order to balance off the budget in 18-19, we're effectively reducing that revenue contribution to capital by 200,000, which, given that at one point we were looking at a £2.4 million gap, clearly that is really good news for us. In terms of the ongoing position, actually there's about £1.6 million of those items will have a recurring impact on the budget. So when we update the medium-term financial plan in the summer, we'll feed those through, but clearly that is an extremely favourable position against our medium-term forecasting. In terms of council tax, say the recommendation is that we take up that extra flexibility of the 1%, which would give us an increase up to £65.74. So £1.90 increase on Hampshire's Fire's element of the council tax. Just to set that in context, I suspect the overall average increase to a Band D next year will be about £85. So we'll be £1.90 of that £85. So I think well worth us taking up that additional income within the council tax figures. So the over page, you've got the precepts that we will be levying on each of the bidding authorities for next year, come to £41 million. Business rates, we've had those confirmed in terms of the retained rates, so we've still got quite a healthy position on business rates. So we're receiving 7 million from locally retained rates, and government Section 31 grant, which they say they're going to take off us every year, and every year for about the last 3 years they seem to have increased it. So we take those out of the forecast, but we seem to benefit from them each year, which again is good news. Revenue contribution to capital, I've already mentioned, will be reduced by that 205,600 in order to balance the overall budget. So as Chairman said, you've got a complete set of recommendations there. The ones that are in bold and italics are the ones that have changed. But if we take those as a complete set, happy to answer any questions, Chairman.
Thank you, Rob, for that very comprehensive summary of your budget paper. Can I thank you and your team for all the work that you've done to present this to us today, and it's an excellent report. So thank you for that. Members, do you have any questions you wish to anything you wish to clarify? Sharon, yes.
Just a sort of probably a technical point, but you're going for 2.98 rather than 2.99. Is that for the same reason it was sort of 1.98, because 1.99 might have sort of shoved some people over the 2% again? Is that...
Yes, that is the reason, and bizarrely, being an accountant, I had to prove that to myself yesterday, and indeed, for one of the bands, it does actually give an increase of 3.01% if we went for 2.99%. So we're just playing it safe.
Is this because of rounding up in certain circumstances?
Yeah, so effectively the amounts in different bands obviously round differently, and the band B council tax, the way it rounded would have meant that it had gone over the 3%, and we thought rather than spending lots of time and potentially money working out whether that is legally okay, we thought we'd just go for 2.98% because it makes a penny difference.
Well, I mean, that's a sensible thing to do. We don't want to put ourselves in a situation that we could be challenged for a few pennies, do we? David, do you want to?
It was just a minor. Can be done by yourself, Chief Fire Officer.
So in effect, obviously we publish these reports in advance. What you've got here is a minor technical change in terms of we've got late notification from a couple of the districts around their council tax base figures and their business rate figures, and I think it made a difference of about £41,000. So I would deem that to be technical, but clearly if there was anything bigger than that, we'd report it to you anyway. But I think once we've got to this situation, we've now got the final settlement, we've got all of the figures from the districts, nothing else should change from this point.
Anything else? Right, members, well, you have the recommendations there before you on the addendum, and it you all happy, content to take those as en bloc? Everybody agreed? Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Next item is item 8. Please move to page 57. On page 57. Well, on page 59, you see a very fine photograph of a very smart chief officer in his #1 uniform, and a picture of me as well. So this is being presented to us by Andy. Anything to add, Andy?
No, thank you. So this is the annual review of the Health and Safety and Wellbeing Statement of Intent. It sets out our commitment to health and safety and our desire to continue to improve that. Importantly, it recognises that the role of a firefighter is inherently risky, and therefore talks about the things that we will do to minimise and manage those risks. So it is our regular annual refresh of that statement, and I commend it to you.
Thank you. Are we supposed to be signing this here at the meeting? Is that the intention?
No, Chair, we'll get you to sign it separately if it's agreed.
Right, okay. So, all content with that, members?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to item 9 on page 61. Jeff, the risk protection and insurance arrangements.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So first of all, if I could provide a little bit of clarity, our arrangements through the Fire and Rescue Indemnity Corporation Limited, it's a sector-led organisation, currently has 9 members, and we have been part of that since its very inception. The arrangements through there is an arrangement for risk pooling. It's not technically insurance. I think for a number of legal reasons we can't call it insurance, but we basically self-indemnify through those collective arrangements with Frick. What it does do is allow us to cover all of our risks up to a certain level, beyond which we take out insurance. So if we get a really, really big claim, then we are ourselves, as a consortium,
indemnified against those costs. So a more traditional insurance mechanism, but the cost ceiling for that is quite high. We are a voting member. Nikki Whitehouse is our representative, and there is a board which oversees the affairs of the organisation. And I was recently appointed as a director of that board. It took me a fair amount of time to go through all the processes, but now I sit on the board. So Hampshire has a good handle on the affairs of Frick. What it does do is it continually looks at trying to reduce risk within the partner organisations, within the members, and there is an organisation there that allows that to go on, and we are part of that mechanism as well. As a result of that work and the steps that we've taken in Hampshire, our premium, if that's the right word, for this coming year has gone down because of the steps that we have taken. So I'm not sure of any other arrangement where through a traditional insurance arrangement you could find where our premium would be going in that direction. There is a small surplus that was made in this last year. That surplus doesn't come back to us as individual services. It goes into the pooling arrangement and helps cover future liabilities. We are also steadily increasing the number of members that we have, and obviously the more members that we have, the greater the resilience and stability within the company. It's really there for members to know. Happy to take any questions. It is a successful arrangement which has been formally recognised by the National Fire Chiefs Council as good practice, and therefore it will hopefully roll out within the sector and has been recognised also by the Home Office as a matter of collaboration. Happy to take questions.
Questions, members? David? Yes.
Thanks. It's on paragraph 11. You mentioned there are a number of reversing and low-speed manoeuvring collisions involving stationary objects, curbs, gateposts and bollards. Now, is this because they're too narrow? Basically, the infrastructure of the areas we're going into is a problem. I know I've got that problem in Hartley Whitney with cars parked, etc. I'm just wondering if this is what's causing this across the county.
I think it would be fair to say there are a number of causes for that. Some are very much those where we have very small manoeuvring spaces with large vehicles, and it does happen. I think our 3-vehicle strategy, where we are now introducing smaller vehicles, will help with just that problem.
May I come back, Mr. Chairman? Yeah. Would it help if we sent a letter to all planning authorities saying, please consider fire engines when you're considering plans for new streets and new developments? There's a lot of development going on around Hampshire, and we really do need to make sure that we can get in there with the appliances, no matter whether they're small or big, because it's not always going to be a small one that's needed.
If I can come back to that, I think that would be helpful in one sense. The thing to keep in our minds is the approved documents, the building regulations, do specify access sizes, turning circles and that sort of things. So I wouldn't want to claim that this is all to do with narrow gateposts. I think there's a great deal of responsibility we should take, our drivers should take, and our driving school to ensure that they're taking further care. We have professional drivers who are excellent at what they do. They move big vehicles through very tight spots. But in some instances in this regard, the slow manoeuvring, non-emergency situations are when sometimes the focus can be lost by some drivers. And I speak as someone in the past who's done that myself. So it's a mistake which is easy to make, but one we must try to avoid. But you're right in saying that there's some aspects of the built environment that can help us, but in the main, that's not the reason why this is occurring.
Yeah. Can I just ask you, Jeff? You have 9 members at the moment, And I wondered if you had 9 members, because actually they were stable forces. And when you say you're looking to expand, I just wondered if there's any process of due diligence on any other fire service that wants to join, in terms of their track record almost, if you like, of accidents and that, and whether we're opening ourselves up to if you like, subsidising accidents of other forces if the due diligence isn't done.
Do they have to pay a joining fee when they join, because you've done all the work?
So let's be you're absolutely right, and in the nicest way, we don't let anybody join. You do have to have proved a certain degree of financial stability. You have to be able to demonstrate a certain approach to risk. We will look at the past record for claims, etc., and consider it on that basis. The reality is most fire and rescue services have a similar approach to us. They're seeking to drive down risks. So most of the applications that we're currently looking at, we would expect to proceed. And there are a number in the pipeline. But you're right, there is also a period of due diligence, which, because we are a risk pooling arrangement, so therefore come under certain regulations that we need to go through in a way in order to meet our legal obligations. So yeah, that is part of the consideration.
Thank you.
Which I'm learning far more about than I ever wished to know.
Thank you, Jeff. Any more points, questions there, members? No? Right, okay. Well, you have the recommendation on page 64 that the update on risk protection and insurance arrangements be noted. Content with that? Good. Thank you. So, still with you then, Jeff, we move to item 10, please, the Strategic Risk Register. So, you're on page 65 now.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So whilst on the same theme of risk, the 2 recommendations here, one which is about the methodology for assessing our risks, and the other is about the risks that we have identified. We have previously had a strategic risk register which had 3 key risks. We have reviewed that as part of our ongoing business processes, and we've moved to a different approach based on the new methodology, which I'll come back to in a second. So we've identified a number of risks which are on page 66 through to page 67, and there are 6 specific strategic risks within that. It wasn't my intent to go through each one of those. They cover the main core strategic areas within the organisation, and those that members would wish to consider and hold us to account on. The other aspect, and if I could take you to the appendix, which is on page 70, we have simplified the matrix there to be a 3x3. We used to have a 5x5 matrix. The benefit of a 3x3 is you have to be more definite. With a 5x5, you can be equivocal in terms of where you put things. So we have to be far more decisive about the risks and where they're placed and what we need to do about them. It provides a simpler matrix for staff to look at, and it also allows us to very clearly identify where we have green, red and amber risks. We've put it in a format so it's a single dashboard, which we hope that members will find useful in terms of quickly reviewing and understanding the nature of the risks that we now have on the risk register. So there are 2 recommendations there. First really is to for members to consider and agree the new methodology, the 9-box matrix, and then to agree the revised risks that we now have on the extended risk register.
Thank you, Jeff. Can you just remind us when we will be reviewing this further, as we've got a new mechanism there?
Well, this will come back on an annual basis.
Annual basis.
More frequently, if there are any significant variations to the risks identified.
Yeah, okay, just thinking. Yes.
And just to add to that, thank you, Jeff. Members, your private briefing you had this morning on the future model of how we operate in the service. So this is a good example of that which must continue to work whilst we change internal processes. And Jeff and team have done a great job of making sure that our current approach to risk is maintained, improved as we move across. So this is something you'll see changing as the model changes in our service, but the methodology will carry across.
Thank you. Sorry, was somebody...
No, I was just inviting Councillor Chad to move seats because she's so cold.
Oh.
I thought if you sat over there but next to Councillor Stubbs, she'll get some heat from the radiator.
You want to... Yeah.
Looking at...
what page are you on?
Page 70. You've got sort of low STR 006. Now, given the content of the letter that was read out earlier on from the PCC, do we still want to keep that in the green moderate box?
So, as the letter the Chairman read out, I think the fact that we've had that letter now does mean that it's dropped to low. Bear in mind these risks can change, week on week. So the actual likelihood of it distracting, which is the risk, if you like, has reduced a great deal on that basis. So obviously, and we wouldn't want to describe this as an individual or post holder being the risk. The risk is to the distraction of this service and all authority. So that's something we're deeming to be low at the moment because of where we're at with that letter. So it's helpful in a sense that we can get on with business and get on with things, not worrying about what that's going to do. And if that changes, obviously we'll update this risk.
Yes, just to remind you, he did say there are, in the coming months, a number of things I will continue to look for. That's the PCC. But notwithstanding him saying that, we just get on with it.
No, it was just his words.
Oh, I know.
For the time being.
Yeah. We have the recommendations on page 69. The first one, that the proposed new scoring system be used by the authority, that refreshed strategic risk register be approved. Are you content with those? Yes. Thank you very much. Right, we now move to item 11, which is the minutes of the Standards and Governance meeting that was held on the 31st of January.
Before you go, is there a spare set of minutes, please?
I thought minutes, were they not given out?
Yes.
They were, I just didn't get them.
Oh, sorry, Jonathan, I thought I asked at the beginning if everybody... Yeah.
But I thought I'd wait until we actually got to them.
Okay, right, thank you. So, over to you, please, Luke.
Well, thank you, Chairman. So everyone should now have a copy of the minutes from the Standards and Governance meeting as held on the 31st of January. It was a single substantive item on the agenda relating to an ICT project. I don't know if Jeff's got any updates you wish to add at this point.
No, nothing further at this moment.
Okay, well, in which case, I mean, you've got the minutes in front of you. There are no recommendations to the full authority, but obviously, we've looked into a problem with an ICT system, and you've got comprehensive minutes of the discussions that we had, so happy to take any questions or comments.
Okay, everybody content to accept those minutes? Fine. Thank you for that. Thank you. So we now move to item 12, which is the exclusion of the press and public. You have the recommendation there. Do you want me to read that? Shall I read that? That press and public be excluded from the meeting as it is likely, in view of the nature of the business to be transacted